Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Fantasy Pros Dynasty Football Podcast. I'm Ryan Wormeli, joined as always by Scott Bogman and Pat Fitzmaurice. Guys, we are doing the same thing we did last week, where we're going through some tiers and rankings in the consensus Dynasty rankings from experts across the industry. Last week, we, of course, did the top 50 or so running backs and then the top 30 or so quarterbacks. Today, we're going to do the wide receivers first and then the tight ends to wrap things up. Much like last week, we have a whole bunch of names to get through. It's going to be a longer episode, so we will skip the preamble at the top and dive right in. But first, I do need to remind everybody that all of our 2026 consensus rankings and tiers can be found at fantasypros.com/rankings. From there, you can navigate to your dynasty rankings that you want to look at as well, various scoring formats, all that fun stuff. Like I said, guys, we're going to start with the wide receivers. Obviously, not just the backbone of your Dynasty roster, but arguably the deepest position amongst any of these in Dynasty. I mean, I was putting together the list, kind of transferring over the consensus rankings into a show sheet, and I just found myself with the running backs, you get to kind of that low-end RB3 range, and it starts to get real, rough, honestly. Here, it's we're into the 40s, and these are still names that I would be interested in having on my rosters. I'm very excited about having on my rosters in some cases. So a lot deeper of a position. We'll start at the very top, though. Tier 1, just 3 names here in the consensus rankings. It's Ja'Marr Chase at number 1. It's Puka Nacua at number 2. And it's Jackson Smith-Njigba at number 3, coming off of his big breakout season, of course. Fitz, I'll start with you. Were there any surprises amongst these 3 for you, or is it kind of about right?
No, I think it's right. And I think it's a discernible drop-off from the top 3 to the next tier. So that makes sense to me, and I think you could order this in different ways. And I know there's some debate about whether it should be Ja'Marr Chase or JSN at the top. Maybe Puka's got some pockets of support too. But yeah, I think it's pretty clearly these 3 above the next wave.
I feel like the easiest one of these for me is Ja'Marr Chase at the top. I don't really see a strong I can see a compelling case being made, if you wanted to put together something, you could make a coherent argument for somebody else. But to me, it's that's pretty easy, Bogman, that Chase is number 1 for me.
Yeah, and I find it harder to tier the wide receivers, as you mentioned, right? They're just so deep, as you said. There's so much talent at this position. I would have the first tier probably deeper than this, but I do think that in terms of market value, it is those 3 above the rest. And I also think you're right, Worm. I think that Chase is easily number 1 to me. I know that some people want to put Puka up there, and JSN is younger, so and had a good connection with Darnold. So I'll hear an argument for any of them. But I think there's guys beyond this tier that you could make an argument to put in this tier as well. But I do think that this tier is correct in terms of market value.
I mean, Ja'Marr Chase had, I think by reputation, a pretty down season in 2025. He was the wide receiver 5 on the season, 8 touchdowns, 1,400 yards, borderline very quietly. He has, of these 3, the best long-term outlook at quarterback on his team. He's still very young. It's not like he's aging out. He's 26 years old. And I think he is the best, just during fantasy. I think he's the best receiver in football. So for me, Chase, even though he's 2 years older than these other 2 guys, he's just very easy. And if you look at the rankings on fantasypros.com, you can see a player's best ranking and his worst ranking. Everybody has a worst ranking of 4th or lower, except for Chase. Literally every expert has him number 1 or number 2 at the lowest. So I almost he's not in a tier of his own, but it's still an easy call within the tier for me to put Chase at the very top. I think you could squint and maybe make a case of being a little lower on Puka, for injury stuff. I mean, he's the guy who's constantly banged up. Even when he plays through it, he's leaving games early, just plays very recklessly and aggressively, and that's helpful for making him a great receiver, but it does, make you a little nervous about him getting hurt more often. And then Puka also has, Stafford is coming back this year. Is this the last year of Stafford? What is the future of the quarterback position in LA? So I think there's enough question marks there that he'd be the one I'd be fading most of the 3. But having said that, this is the correct 3 in my opinion to be at the top of this list, Fitz.
Yeah, I guess the case you could make for Puka is that he has, for his 3-year career, averaged 7.1 catches and 95.3 receiving yards a game. And I think that 95.3 yards a game might be an all-time record. So
I think you're right. I think
at
he
least
does
among
currently have the
active
record.
leaders.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like he is just a fantastic player when he's on the field. And yes, like maybe it's not going to look as good when Matthew Stafford isn't around. But man, like the guy's just so good at getting open, so good after the catch, such a competitor. And the dude averaged at 107 yards a game last season, sharing targets with Davante Adams, who's still got tread left on the tire. So
I really think the only question about Puka is the injuries. That's it, right?
Yeah. And really, like the durability, it hasn't been that bad. I mean, he's missed one game last year and like 6 games in 2024.
But it's more like like within the game, he like has to leave for a series and go back to the locker room, and it's just like there's like a general like nervousness isn't even the right word, but like that's just not something that I like. I
might lead the league in
with,
blue
like,
tent
Chase.
Visits. Is that
and
what you're saying,
like it just makes you a little more apprehensive, like as a dynasty manager. When again, I'm not saying he should fall to like wide receiver 12. I'm just saying when compared to guys like Jamar Chase or JSN coming off of this amazing season, right? Like you have to
questionable tag or whatever.
You're splitting hairs.
It's annoying going into every week. I understand that, but the talent is absolutely there.
Bogman, I think these are fairly easy. So I want to loop us into tier 2 here, and I'll read out the names. And it goes from wide receiver 4 to wide receiver 8. It's Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Malik Neighbors, and Drake London. You said that you would probably have tier 1 bigger. Would it include like all of these names or just a couple of them? Who would be at the top of kind of the next group of guys for you after that first 3?
Jefferson, Lamb, and Amon-Ra. Those are the 3 that I would also include probably in tier 1. And I think, and again, market value tells us that Jefferson is way lower than these guys. So I understand putting the tier there, but I think in terms of talent, Jefferson is still very good. I think McCarthy's going to play better this year, and even if he doesn't, I think they're going to have better than Max Brosmer backup plan here. Like Carson Wentz couldn't last behind that broken O-line. Max Brosmer he's not an NFL caliber quarterback. He should never have been. He had no business playing specifically as a rookie this year. So I think we see a lot of down on Jefferson. Lamb has had some injury stuff as well. So I get these guys being in a lower tier. But Amon-Ra's been your 3rd highest scorer 3 years in a row. He's been in the top 3 years in a row, and he just had his best year this year as well. So I think those 3 guys in particular are the ones that I would move above the rest. But again, in terms of like market value and what you have to pay to get these players, I think these tiers are correct for that.
Yeah, Fitz. I feel like Lamb and St. Brown are like, they could be at the back end of tier 1. They could be at the top of tier 2. It doesn't really matter. This kind of 4 to 6 range like is a pretty easy ranking for them, I think, in Dynasty. And then you look at Neighbors, like I totally get why he's here, right? Like he's had coming off an injury of his own, but seems to have the quarterback pairing now. Obviously supremely talented, like a tier 1 based on like strictly talent, like really good player. There's a lot of upside there. Jefferson is the one that is really interesting because we have no doubts about the talent. We've seen him do it many years in a row, but what exactly is Minnesota going to do at quarterback? And Bogman has some belief here that it will be better next year. I think that it would be hard to be worse, like obviously.
Right.
But I'm curious, Fitz, where you would rank Jefferson right now, just coming off of a really disappointing year that none of us are blaming Jefferson for, but we also don't know the resolution to what caused the issues yet.
So I've got him 6th, right behind Malik Neighbors, right ahead of CeeDee Lamb. Just a little bit older. I mean, he's now squarely in the prime of his career, I think at 27, and it's kind of frustrating if you're an investor that he's in the prime of his career and they don't have quarterback figured out right now. So that's a key thing for sure. I don't know if we can completely absolve Justin Jefferson of, like, I would say it was his worst year of his career as far as personal performance. I mean, we saw, I'm just thinking about that Christmas game where he dropped a touchdown pass that was right in his mitts. And like there were lapses on his end too, although it was certainly more quarterback driven. And then there's also the presence of Jordan Addison, who I think is a really good receiver. And not that Justin Jefferson is ever going to be lacking for targets, but maybe that's kind of a thing too. You've got another playmaker he's got to share balls with, and occasionally he's going to make big plays and steal some of Jefferson's thunder.
Jefferson's 26. He will be 27 before the season starts. His birthday is in June. Jefferson, let me ask you this. Where is he going to be ranked for you in redraft leagues this season, do you think? I mean, obviously, like, who the quarterback is will matter even more for that conversation because we were talking about specifically this year. But as of right now, when you're thinking about early rankings, he's in the prime of his career. We're rating him highly in Dynasty. Where do you think he'll be ranked in redraft, Fitz?
Also 6. And
Okay.
the difference for me there is that I've got him ahead of Malik Neighbors in redraft. Just a little bit of uncertainty about Neighbors with the new offense coming back from the injury. So I do feel a little bit more confident in Jefferson there. And if I can get him somewhere early in the second round at a little bit of a discount, I'd pretty happily take it in redraft.
What do you think about that Bogman in redraft for Jefferson?
I think 6 is correct, right? I think you put Puka, Chase, JSN, CeeDee Lamb, Amon-Ra ahead of him. If you want to put Pickens ahead of him, going back to Dallas, most likely, I can see that as well. But I think 6, 7, somewhere in that range is probably correct for him.
Any quick thoughts on Drake London? He's kind of the one name we didn't really hit on in this tier before we move on, Bogman.
I mean, Drake London is great. Again, we have to figure out what is going on at the quarterback position because Penix is coming off a major injury and Kirk Cousins is gone. So I think that's the big thing. But we have seen flashes of talent. We just haven't seen him put it all together quite yet. So Drake London's still an ascending, very good talent.
Fitz, does London belong here at the bottom of tier 2, or would you rather see him at the top of tier 3?
No, I believe he belongs in tier 2. And even the quarterback thing, like I think Penix is pretty good for his game. Penix is more comfortable throwing outside the numbers or outside the hashes, I think, than he is throwing in the middle of the field. And he's not afraid to throw to a covered receiver. And we know London can win contested catches. So I think he sort of fits in and could be what Rome Odunze was for Penix at Washington. The guy who's there, doesn't mind throwing it to him when he's got a guy on him, knows that his receiver is going to be in the right place at the right time.
If you're listening to the audio version of this show, we just launched the brand new Fantasy Pros Dynasty YouTube channel. We'll bring you rookie rankings, superflex strategy, startup draft, and trade advice all year long. If you're building for the future, this channel is built for you. Just search Fantasy Pros Dynasty channel on YouTube and hit subscribe. All right, guys, let's go to tier 3. Runs from wide receiver 9 to wide receiver 16. Nico Collins, George Pickens, Tetairoa McMillan, Rashee Rice, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Ladd McConkey, Emeka Egbuka. We could do an entire episode on just this tier. I feel like
Yes.
if we wanted to, we could take a good several minutes on every one of these names because there's a bunch of fascinating names. There's pretty much everybody in here, for the most part, you could paint a picture of tier 2 upside or even higher for some of them. For all these guys, I think you can paint a picture for why they might drop between now and next year, be it in injury history or major quarterback question marks or off-field issues in the case of Rice, or what's year 2 going to look like for Egbuka, right? Like, there's a lot of question marks here, a lot of ceiling, and a lot of floor. Bogman, I'll let you decide. Where do you want to start with this tier?
I would split this tier in half, to be honest with you. And I, my tiers are just going to look different eventually when they come out. But Nico Collins, George Pickens, Tet McMillan, and I would take the bottom guy here, Egbuka, and I would put him in that top group as well. So I would put those 4 in a higher tier than I would have Wilson, Olave, and McConkey. And it's not in talent. I think in talent, this is a pretty good tier. I think it's fairly equal. And you can poke holes in all of these guys, of course, right? We saw, Tet McMillan has a question at quarterback long-term because I don't think Bryce Young is going to be that guy. Emeka Egbuka really fell off in the second half. Was that rookie wall? Was that Chris Godwin? Was that just teams figuring him out? I think there's some questions there. Pickens, its attitude. Collins, it's staying on the field. I think those are the things that we know. But the other guys, Chris Olave has major injury issues. Garrett Wilson has major quarterback and team context issues. Rashee Rice has major off-the-field issues. Ladd McConkey had a really bad year in his second year, right, for what we expected. So I still think that the talent of this group is probably this is a very good tier for it here. But I do think situationally there are differences for me within this group. So I would split it a little bit, but in terms of talent, these are all very, very good. And like you said, we could spend the whole show going over just this tier because there is still a ton of ascending talent here.
Do you think, Fitz, even if it's different names, do you agree with splitting, or do you think this tier should be, roughly 8 names deep, and this is like the correct size of the tier?
I'm good with the size of the tier. My only big discrepancies in my rankings between those in this tier, I would have Tetairoa McMillan as a tier 2 guy. I think he belongs there with the 1,000-yard season at age 22 and, playing with a C- quarterback. Like for me, he should be up there, and I think he's top of this tier, no question. And I don't think I'd have Rashee Rice on this tier just because of some of the issues off the field and just I don't know what that's going to look like going forward. I feel like there's a sea change coming with the Kansas City offense, and I don't know if Rashee Rice is going to continue to earn targets at the rate he has. I could be totally wrong about that, and that's just who he is, and he always is a target hog, but we'll see. I mean, I still think I'm curious, and I kind of said this last year, and I was wrong, that maybe the Xavier Worthy breakout we saw late in 2024, that he was going to be more of a problem for Rashee Rice as far as earning a lot of targets. That wasn't the case at all. But we'll see what happens if now it's Xavier Worthy, plus some say they figure out a way to get their hands on a big X receiver. They trade for A.J. Brown or even just signing Alec Pierce or something. I don't know.
To me, that's more of the minor concern for Rice. I think the major concern, I'm not saying it's not a concern, but the major concern, yes, is the legal stuff, because now it's a pattern, right? Like we've had, and I don't even want to go into too many of the details because it's still kind of like ongoing story type stuff, and we don't really know what the resolution is or whatever. But some icky stuff going on off the field, to put it mildly, and more than one thing has now been an issue, right? Like the drag racing, this stuff with the mother of his child. Like it's very gross and has become a pattern. So you wonder how far that will continue to extend, like throughout his career. Is not getting better in that regard in terms of his behavior off field. So that makes it very hard for me to put him in the top 12. I don't think he belongs here. Where would you have him ranked, both of you?
I have Rashee Rice at 16, but trending down. So I agree with both of you guys. It is obviously the stuff on the field is not a nothing, right? Because they've talked about bringing Tyreek in. There's a lot of mocks that still have them taking a wide receiver, and you just have to. It has to start to crawl into their minds as well. It's like, how long is this guy going to be around and available for us? Because the next suspension is going to be a season. Right. So if he gets another one. So I think all that stuff needs to add in here. Fitz, where do you have him? 16 for me.
I've got him 21, but I've got him behind the top 3 rookies in this class, class of 2026. I've also got him one spot behind Rome Odunze.
Okay. I think the way I would put it is like, I think the middle of tier 3 is an appropriate ranking, if not for the off-field stuff. That stuff's not being baked into this ranking, and it should be. Like, that is a very big thing kind of weighing over all of this. George Pickens is the highest ranked guy who's not the number one in his offense, assuming he's going back to Dallas. Of course, had a great year anyway there, but just wanted to kind of point that out, that everybody else ahead of him is the clear number one for their offenses. Olave, like, it's extra scary because, I mean, he's been banged up in a multitude of ways, but like the concussions, like one bad hit could end the career. So that
looked great, though.
Gets nervous. But he had an awesome season. I mean,
he did.
Borderline like underrated. I mean, because it happened for the Saints, and like I won a league thanks to his performance late in the year, and like it was not a particularly good team, but he just was awesome like throughout the season. And I was talking to a buddy of mine just yesterday about like, how did you actually end up winning that league? Because we're both in it, and I was like, well, did you see what Chris Olave did? I mean, he was awesome.
He was really good.
Yeah.
And, again, a product of, you just have horrific quarterback play the year before and injury issues. And you come back the next year and you look amazing because you have markedly improved quarterback play. I'm hoping we get that for Jefferson.
Fitz, I want to ask you this because Bogman already answered this when he was talking about splitting the tiers. Who do you like better between the final two names in this tier, Lad McConkey or Emeka Egbuka? McConkey obviously had a great first season, not as strong of a second season. They now get Mike McDaniel running the offense. I'm really interested to see how McConkey fits into that and sort of the creative ways that McDaniel might use him. And then obviously Egbuka, incredible start to his career, but he had the reverse of what most first-round wide receivers do that we always expect. You start slow and then have that great finish. You get really excited for year two. He had the great start and then a really abysmal, like an unplayable finish. So at the back of tier 3, who do you like better between Lad and Egbuka?
I like Egbuka. I do think there were some issues. I think there was some sort of nagging injury that Egbuka picked up. I can't remember if it was hamstring or ankle. Right around it sort of coincided with the downturn to his season. The Buccaneers couldn't keep offensive linemen healthy, and I think Baker's play really kind of waned as a result in 2025. Got off to a pretty hot start, and I mean, I think Baker's season sort of mirrored Egbuka starting high, and then it was just sort of, Enron stock as the season went on, just the slow, steady descent. And well, maybe Enron was more of a flat out crash, but so not the perfect comp. I still am really high on Egbuka. I think he's a really talented guy, but that's not to throw shade at McConkey. And I think it's exciting to think about what Mike McDaniel might do with him and using him and, getting him more involved, running a lot of motion with him. I think he's going to be doing a lot of pre-snap motion and just like McDaniel's going to find a better way to exploit mismatches, I think, than Greg Roman was doing.
We're not going to talk about every name in every tier, but like I said, this one is so interesting that I do want to also ask about Garrett Wilson before we move on. Obviously, very talented player. There's a reason that he's wide receiver 13 despite having horrific quarterback play his entire career. But the fact is, he still has a horrific quarterback situation. And he now, for the first time in 2025, didn't play a full season. I'm not saying that there's like long-term injury concerns, but just worth noting that he had been really durable prior to that and then missed half the year last year. The Jets feel like, somebody described this on a different show that I was listening to. They called Aaron Glenn the most pre-fired head coach in the NFL right now, which I couldn't agree more with. Like, I mean, is there any world where he is the coach on February 1st of 2027? Like, my jaw would be on the floor if that was the case. If he makes it to the end of the season, I'd be surprised. I'd be shocked if he makes it past a couple of days after the season. There's no quarterback here, and there's no path to a quarterback this season, barring a surprise like they somehow signed Malik Willis or something, which I certainly don't expect. So, there's no quarterback or a path to a quarterback, barring them being really bad this year and getting a rookie next year. But now you're talking about Garrett Wilson getting to be like 26, year 5 of his career at that point when he would finally have a good quarterback. But he's a really good player. So I want to ask you this. It's kind of all a long preamble to say, is wide receiver 13 the right spot for him? Less so the tier and more is like literally the highest ranked wide receiver 2 the right spot for him? Because to me, it sounds too high. And then I wanted to also ask, like, how would you compare him to the incoming rookie class who might be in better situations here, be it Cardell Tate or Mekhi Lemon or whoever your favorite is there? Fitz, I'll start with you on that one, but I'll ask you the same question, Bogman, after this. But Fitz, Garrett Wilson versus those guys and wide receiver 13, is that too high, too low, or just right?
I think it's right. Even with the bad quarterbacking that he's dealt with, he's had a pair of 1,100-yard seasons and a third 1,000-yard season. And it's just kind of been this star-crossed career for him, and we're already 4 years into his career where he's had this just abysmal string of quarterback play and then the injury last year. So I get why maybe some people are starting to second guess it and whether we're ever going to see the spectacular 1,300-yard, 11-touchdown season we want to see out of Garrett Wilson. But hopefully the cavalry comes to the rescue in 2027 with the abundant quarterback class we're going to have there. And I suspect the Jets are going to be well positioned to get one of the top ones after this season. So, yeah, I understand the thinking that maybe he should be a little bit lower, but I'm still a believer.
Would you go over or under if I set the line at 7.5 touchdowns this season? Because I feel like that's his career high is 7. I feel like it's very difficult to top that this year.
Got to go under.
So that means he's going to be 5 years into his career without ever topping 7 touchdowns. Like, and again, the quarterback plays a lot of that, but
I think it's most of it, dude. I mean, like, because before this season, you would call Garrett Wilson quarterback proof, right? Because of the seasons that he had with terrible quarterback play. 83 catches, 1,103. The touchdowns were always going to be low because the offense is terrible, right? But 95 catches for 1,000 yards, 101 catches for 1,100 yards and 7 touchdowns. So before this season, when, he didn't play after week 6 and still led this team in catches, which is an absurd reality for the Jets. But, you would call him quarterback proof. So I have him at 14. I think somewhere in that range is correct. Like, you can't have him as a wide receiver 1 because we just don't know what the future is for the pass throwers in New York, but he's still very, very good. So I think right now is just a really good time to buy on him, specifically if whoever's rostering him is low. So I'm still going to have him pretty high.
And he's had this ability to command targets. Look at some of the target counts he's had. In his first 3 seasons, it was 147, 168, and 154. Like that put him, over that 3-year run, I would have to imagine he was, if not the target leader, top 3. And maybe that
was number 2 for the Jets in that range. It's probably like Alan Lazard or somebody that is not there anymore.
I know, that's frightening. So, and maybe that changes a little bit. Say the Jets take Jordan Tyson with the second first-round pick that they got in the Colts, the Sauce Gardner trade. Like, maybe the target count goes down a little bit. Like, he is still a high-volume target earner, and I don't think that's going to change.
Let's go to tier 4. This is a big one. It runs from wide receiver 17 through wide receiver 29. I'll read the names here. A.J. Brown, T. Higgins, Carnell Tate, Brian Thomas Jr., Rome Odunze, Zay Flowers, Devonta Smith, Jamison Williams, Marvin Harrison Jr., Luther Burden, Mekhi Lemon, Jalen Waddle, and Jordan Tyson. Obviously, that's a lot of names there. Again, that's wide receiver 17 through wide receiver 29. We're not going to hit on every name in detail. We've talked about some of these names actually a lot on recent shows. Like, everybody knows how I feel about Zay Flowers is overranked here. Everybody knows that Fitz has Luther Burden like 15 spots higher than this. He's got him as a wide receiver 1 already. I want to start with the rookies in this section. I was a little surprised because I've been viewing them as kind of very close together, this top 3 of receiver. I do have it in this same order as Tate, number 1 amongst the rookies, then Lemon, then Tyson. But I was surprised that Tate is like almost 10 spots higher than these other 2. Carnell Tate's wide receiver 19, Mekhi Lemon wide receiver 27, and Jordan Tyson wide receiver 29. They're all in the same tier, but that's a bigger gap than I expected for the number 1 guy there in Tate. Fitz, were you surprised by that gap, or do you see Tate as starting to separate himself in the consensus?
No, I'm very surprised by that gap. To me, it's I'm going to be second guessing how I have those 3 guys ranked right up until the night of the draft.
and landing spot, of course, will certainly play a role.
That is probably going to sort it out for me. Like, I expect that I will probably shuffle how I have those 3 ranked based entirely on landing spot.
Yeah. What do you think, Bogman?
I agree. Yeah, I have Tyson. Tyson would be the one where I'm not surprised if he falls because of his injury history, right? So that is the one that I have lower. I've got Carnell Tate at, I believe, 22. I've got Lemon at 24, and I have Tyson at 29. So, and again, just like Fitz said, landing spot is going to matter a lot for those guys as to where they move, because as we pointed out before, quarterback matters. All these guys are tied to their quarterback. So some of them are quarterback proof, but most are not. So landing spot's going to be huge.
I feel like I wouldn't be all that surprised if Tyson ends up not even being a first-round pick. I mean, the injury history is very long and extensive. I'm not saying that I would bet on him falling out of the first round, but my jaw wouldn't be on the floor. I mean, he's not even going to be participating in the combine drills from a hamstring injury that's 3 months old, and that's not even like the worst injury on this laundry list of his history of extensive injuries. It's like every season, it feels like, has been an issue for him at the college level. How much harder is that going to be at the NFL level? I just think I think there will be teams who are really nervous about it. And I would say I would be really intrigued to see the betting odds, and I might even put down some money and just to him not being one of the top 3 receivers drafted. Like, it would not surprise me if Denzel Boston or one of these other guys goes ahead of him, because the injury thing is just lingering over them. And he's a really good player, right? Like, he might be my number 1 guy if he didn't have this injury stuff hanging over it. But it really concerns me when thinking about making a first-round investment in him from an NFL team's perspective, it is the reason why I have Tate and Lemon higher just in my personal rookie rankings.
I get it. Go watch the film, man. Like a healthy Jordan Tyson is just like, he is exciting. And I was kind of watching the top 3 plus Boston today again. And like, there is a lot to love about all the top 3. After watching Boston again, I'm a little bit worried. Like, I just don't know if the speed, he could be the discount Mike Evans, but I just worry, like, if enough speed to play Power 5 college football is still going to be enough speed in the NFL.
It's because I comped him to Keon Coleman yesterday. That's why,
well,
that's
I mean,
why Pat went back and watched.
He's not, he's not Kelvin Benjamin, but I do worry that the speed just isn't going to play, and he's not going to be able to separate consistently at the NFL level.
I have nothing bad to say about Tyson, the player, when healthy. To be clear,
really
so
good,
it is not at all. I don't even come at all close to knocking him, the player.
But
it's
who
fair.
else is really good when they're healthy? Treylon Burks. So I just honestly.
I mean, when you Google Jordan
like
Tyson, the first autofill thing is stats. The second thing is injury history.
Yeah, but there were times when healthy Treylon Burks, was not exactly an impact player. Like, if Jordan Tyson is healthy, he's going to make noise.
I agreed with that. Yes.
Yeah. No, I agree with it too. I mean, and it's like the broken collarbone, I think was 2024. Like, that's a fluke thing. I'm not really worried about that. Obviously, like, the knee injury that he had like 3 or 4 years ago was really extensive, and the fact that the hamstring injury has just lingered so long, it just makes me nervous. But he is a very good player, so I don't want to go against that at all. Some of the other names on this list, in this tier, like I said, AJ Brown, T. Higgins, Brian Thomas Jr. is a really interesting one. At first glance, Bogman, wide receiver 20 for Thomas. Is that too high, too low, just right for you?
Yeah, I've got him at 21. I have him like just inside this tier, but it really is like, this is going to be the deciding year on where Brian Thomas goes, up or down. And I still hold firm to I think he's the most likely player to be traded this offseason, because he just didn't fit. Parker Washington was great. They extended Jacoby Myers, right? So, like, everything else feels to fit except him. So I feel like he gets traded, and if he ends up in Buffalo, people are going to overvalue him. Right now, I feel like he's probably undervalued because of the year that he had in general. But I think he does need to be in a higher tier just because he's been good. That's why I have him at 21. You said he's 22 in ECR, correct?
He's 20 in ECR.
20. Okay, so I'm a little bit below. So
yeah, he's one spot behind Carnell Tate in ECR.
I still have him one spot ahead of Carnell Tate.
Okay.
So
Fitz, let me just, for those who maybe have missed it on previous episodes, let me just give you a few seconds to talk about your love for Luther Burden.
Yeah, just all right. So I know this is on a kind of a smaller sample size than some other receivers have had, but just the yards per route run, which is a pretty predictive stat. He, I think, is behind only Odell Beckham Jr. for yards per route run his rookie year. And now I know a lot of that was done kind of late in the year. He couldn't get a foothold early on. Ben Johnson was actually playing Olamide Zaccheaus ahead of Luther Burden. But, man, you just saw it at times when this guy, his footwork is so good and he's so quick and so fast that it is really hard for defenders to stay with him. And his cuts are just unbelievable. And this guy is a major problem in the open field. And he showed off some of this in college, like his sophomore season at Missouri. He was just a revelation, having the season he had as a teenager in the SEC. Like, I just think, and now having Ben Johnson as his coach, the guy who helped turn Amon-Ra St. Brown into a star, like, I feel like if Luther Burden becomes the permanent slot receiver for Ben Johnson, he could have a very Amon-Ra St. Brown-like career trajectory.
Burden or Garrett Wilson?
Right now, I've got Burden like one spot higher.
Okay, and that is
Still
very
Garrett
much against
Wilson for me.
consensus. So that's why I wanted to share that.
I love Burden too. I love Fitzy's love for Burden as well. He's going to be a really great player, I think. But I still have Garrett Wilson ahead of him.
Last guy in this tier before we move on, Marvin Harrison Jr. He's wide receiver 25. I want to frame the conversation this way. Predict for me a year from now where he will be ranked in Dynasty. Basically I'm asking is, do you expect that ranking to improve or worsen in the next year? And by the way, he's 23 years old. He'll be 24, turning it right before the start of this upcoming season. So Bogman, I'll start with you. Do you think Harrison will be higher or lower than that this time next year?
I have him exactly at 25. So if I had to pick up or down, I would say I'd have to say down, because Michael Wilson was great. Trey McBride is still there. We're not sure about the quarterback situation, new coaching staff, all of that. Like, there's just too many it's death by 1,000 cuts. He could be much better. They could improve this quarterback play. This could be a much better scheme fit for him. But I think if I'm picking right now, it has to be lower.
What do you think, Fitz?
I'm going to maybe go with the glass half full. Like, who would have thought he'd be outside the 20s at this point in his career with the fanfare that he had coming into the NFL? So I'm going to say higher. I'll be cautiously optimistic that Mike LaFleur can help him right the ship.
New coach, possibly, we'll see what the quarterback situation is, but might be a better situation for him going into next season. We'll have to see how that goes. I want to let everybody know that they can join the Fantasy Pros community on Discord and share your moves in one of our Dynasty threads, chat with other fans, and get access to exclusive AMAs that wind up on our podcast feed. Here's our current schedule. Myself and Fitz at 5 Eastern on the first Tuesday of each month, and then Fitz and Bogman at 5 Eastern on the third Tuesday of each month. Come get your questions answered and be on the show at fantasypros.com/chat. All right, guys, tier 5, a little bit smaller here. Runs from wide receiver 30 to wide receiver 38. Jordan Addison, DK Metcalf, Ricky Pearsall, Christian Watson, Terry McLaurin, Cortland Sutton, Michael Pittman Jr., Xavier Worthy, and Davante Adams. One guy that we've talked about on a few shows here is Ricky Pearsall. He's somebody that we are very interested in investing in Dynasty. That is sometimes a different conversation from where you would actually rank him. So Bogman, I know that you are interested in buying Pearsall. Are you ranking him higher than this, or are you leaving him at around wide receiver 32?
No, I'm lower than this on him. I do want to buy him. I didn't think that market price would be this Pollyanna on him, so I do have him a little bit lower than this group.
Where's he ranked for you, Fitz?
Right in line with the market at wide receiver 32. Just really athletic. I like what I've seen from him as a route runner when we've gotten an extended look at him. Unfortunately, injuries have been a problem, and just easy to write off the shooting as a freak thing, but there have been some other minor problems. However, if Jawan Jennings isn't there, we know Brandon Ayuk isn't going to be there. We know George Kittle's probably not going to be ready for the season and is probably going to be a pup guy. There is a major opportunity for Ricky Pearsall to be a target hog early next year, and I would love to see him be able to stay healthy and take advantage of that opportunity.
Is there anybody, Bogman, that you think belongs a tier higher? They should be in tier 4 out of this group?
I mean, if I had to pick one, because I think this is pretty good, but I'd put Michael Pittman a little bit higher. You guys know that I've been a Michael Pittman stan probably a little bit too long, but he looked really good last season. They've talked about keeping Alec Pierce. I think that's good for Michael Pittman. They said they would franchise him if necessary. So, I think Pittman would be the one guy I'd move up from this tier.
Who would you move up, Fitz? I know historically you've really liked Jordan Addison. Obviously, he is the same quarterback question marks as Jefferson. Is that enough to hold you from moving him up, or would you have him up in tier 4?
No, I think this is the right place for him. On talent alone, I think he's a tier 4 guy, but not only the quarterback situation, but some of the off-field stuff for him is a little concerning.
Yeah. Anybody that you guys would move down out of this tier, Fitz?
Well, I mean, Terry McLaurin is he 30 already or pushing 30? Like
his is age,
I think
for sure.
I mean, he's
30.
definitely older than you expect. Yeah, he is 30 already.
But then again, it's encouraging to hear David Blau talk about wanting to get him 10 targets a game this year. So
he's
was
30.
good
And
at
by the way,
the
he
end.
will turn 31 like a week into the season.
okay, so that might be a little old for this tier. So maybe him. Kind of the same with Davante Adams. Like as it was, Davante Adams was extremely touchdown dependent last year, and he's playing with Puka Nacua. And what does the future look like if we only get one more year out of Matthew Stafford? So this seems a little bit aggressive for Davante for me to see him in the top 40 in Dynasty rankings.
Anybody you're moving down, Bogman? Am I misremembering, or have you been lower on Christian Watson?
Yeah, I'm low on Christian Watson. I think Fitz is correct about Davante as well. Like my tiers are just different than the consensus here. But I mean, I don't think that Worthy really belongs here in this group right now. You know, I think this is a huge year for him, and I thought last year was going to be good. Obviously, got hurt. You know, the first series of the first game in Brazil last year. So, and didn't make any pathway, right? So he's a massive question. What are the Chiefs going to do? Are they going to bring someone in? They bring Tyreek Hill back? What's going on with Rashee Rice? I think there are enough questions to move him down as well. And obviously, you guys know I'm the Xavier Worthy guy here, but I do think there are enough questions to where I would probably move him down a tier.
Yeah, Worthy. I mean, this is a bet. In ranking him here, you're betting on the upside still, and not what we've actually seen outside of that stretch to end his rookie season. Fitz.
Pretty spectacular stretch.
Yeah.
That especially if you include the 3 or 4 playoff games the Chiefs had that year, like Worthy's numbers over his last 8 games or so in his rookie season were fantastic. First round pedigree and one of the fastest guys in the NFL. So I get it. I think it's appropriate placement for him.
It's prove it year for him for sure.
Yeah. And I think Watson also, by the way, appropriately placed. A guy who's 6'4" and moves like that, rare species. And I mean, you could make a case for him being at least a tier higher, if not for the fact that, you know, he might be made out of glass.
It's Earth theory for both those guys. There's only so many people on Earth as fast as Worthy. There's only so many people that move like Watson at his size on Earth. So I understand that side of it for sure.
And you talk about a strong stretch, like Watson had that stretch. It was like, I think it was week 11 to like 14 last year.
Great.
He 2 top 5 finishes, another top 12 finish. Like I think it was like 5 touchdowns in 4 games. He was awesome in that stretch. You know, like less than a year coming off of his knee injury, which is just really impressive.
Yeah, and he returned quickly from the knee injury, but it's just the knee was not the first injury he's had, unfortunately, and it's kind of been one thing after another.
Huge tier 6. We were going to kind of go through the top 50 receivers. Tier 6 runs through 55. So I'll just read the names here. We'll talk about a few of them before moving on to tight ends. The names here from wide receiver 39 through 55. Travis Hunter, Jacoby Myers, Michael Wilson, Wan'Dale Robinson, Jayden Higgins, DJ Moore, Alec Pierce, Quentin Johnston, Brandon Ayuk, Khalil Shakir, Jaden Reed, Mike Evans, Juwan Jennings, Matthew Golden, Chris Godwin, Josh Downs, and Stephon Diggs. One interesting name that stands out here is just Alec Pierce in terms of like the free agency, like chance he goes back to Indianapolis. They have their own major quarterback question marks for this season in particular with the injury to Daniel Jones. So I'm not sure like what the ideal landing spot is probably something like New England, but I'm not sure like wherever he ends up, you know, what kind of impact we expect to see towards his dynasty value. Michael Wilson is a really fascinating name given that he was like, you know, one of the best pickups ever that you could have made last season in fantasy. And so from the dynasty perspective, he's outside the top 40, but showed what his ceiling can be, especially if they do happen to bring back Jacoby Brissett. We'll see where it goes there. Travis Hunter, of course, a fascinating name, how much he has dropped in the last year. And is he going to be playing any wide receiver at all? We'll see what that looks like. Those are just some of the more interesting names to me. I guess Matthew Golden too, just given the first round pedigree and the really poor first season. Who stands out to you, Fitz, when you read through all those names first as too high, too low, just anybody that stands out?
I think I've got Travis Hunter about 15 spots lower than this. He's a headache for the people who have him. You don't want to cut him, But what if he is mostly a defensive back this year? He is just kind of stuck on your roster as a guy you cannot conceivably play if he's only getting about 20 to 30% snap share on offense every game. That's just a nightmare. And if you drafted Travis Hunter ahead of Tetairoa McMillan, my condolences. I'm trying to think if there's anyone else. Like, I almost, from what we saw in spurts from Jayden Higgins last year, I almost want to put him a tier higher, but, I guess we should probably wait till CJ Stroud gets back on track, and Nico Collins being there is obviously kind of a problem for Jayden Higgins' target count. So otherwise, really no one. I don't know if I'd have Brandon Ayuk in this tier. Like, I'm not looking to acquire Brandon Ayuk under any circumstances until he shows us what he has left at this point.
Yeah, I would definitely tend to agree with that, and I would agree on Travis Hunter too. I feel I'm on the opposite end of that, where I got Tetairoa McMillan last year in a rookie draft, one pick after Travis Hunter, so I very much lucked out in that regard.
You know what a Matthew Golden skeptic I am, but I mean, at this point, would either of you rather have Brandon Ayuk than Matthew Golden? I wouldn't.
No, I'd rather have Golden.
I wouldn't.
Yeah, so I'm pretty surprised to see Ayuk like half a dozen spots ahead of Golden.
Maybe just some optimism there. Like, when he's not in San Francisco, he'll be happier and has had all this time off to heal. Like, I find that to be a difficult case to make. Yeah, I agree with that. What about you, Bogman? Who stands out to you here? Because there's a lot of names here that are like, yeah, like Quentin Johnson, wide receiver 46, that feels fine to me. Like DJ Moore, wide receiver 44, that feels fine.
This is where the traffic jam at wide receiver comes, man. Like, this is really where it is, because you have potential with guys like Travis Hunter and Matthew Golden and Jayden Higgins and guys like that. Then you have some floors, right? Michael Wilson's coming off a huge year. Jacoby Myers had a great end of the season in Jacksonville. Mike Evans is a stud, but he's old, right? So you have a lot of floor, a lot of potential, and some ceiling in here. So this is where it becomes tough. I think Alec Pierce is one that stands out to me just because he was good with Phillip Rivers as well, right? This wasn't just a Daniel Jones thing. And he had a good year in 2024 as well, but a great year in 2025 and did it with different quarterbacks. So I'm buying on his ascent. I'm also buying the dip on DJ Moore a little bit as well. He was really good at the end of the season. I think he's going to be better. And I think moving places would be great for DJ Moore here, because he's obviously, jammed up in Chicago. So if he were to get moved, I think his stock would ascend a lot as well. I like Michael Wilson. Whether he belongs in a tier higher, I think, is a question, because we haven't seen him do it before. He had such an extensive injury plagued college career. So, you wonder about long term with him. But I do think that it's a good group, and you're just going to have a lot of different types of players in the tiers moving forward because of, the nature of Dynasty and the fact that, maybe you're buying because your team is low, so you're buying the dip on someone. Maybe you're buying because your team is good, so you want Mike Evans to push you. You know what I mean? So this is where it really gets jammed up.
Give me one name from each of you guys outside the top 50 that you believe belongs inside the top 50. It can be well inside the top 50 or just barely, but a name that we haven't mentioned that you think should be in there. We've only talked about 3 rookies, so maybe it's one of the rookie guys there. Maybe it's a veteran that you have just always liked. We'll go one from each of you. Bogman, who is your name that you want to hit on?
I mean, we didn't talk about Denzel Boston. Where is he?
He's higher. He's higher.
He's like very low right now, but this is an effect of like not everybody has incorporated all their rookies into their rankings quite yet at this stage. So like I like he's like outside the top 100. That's clearly not representative of where he will be once we get further into the draft process. But right now he's like very, very low.
How about Parker Washington? We didn't talk about Parker Washington. I think
he is the first name at the top of the next tier, so he just barely missed being discussed.
I think the year that he had, he belongs in this group. I understand keeping him low because we don't know what's going on with Brian Thomas. We don't know what's going on with Travis Hunter. Brenton Strange came back, right? So I understand not having him here because of that. But I think there will be movements, and I think that's going to end up being low on Parker Washington.
But by the way, before we get to the name that you want to hit on, Fitz, where for just let's say Boston and Casey Concepcion, where would they be for you? Because again, they're way lower here. That's not representative, which is why I didn't even want to say it. But where should they be in your eyes?
So I've got Boston like in the 30s, and I have Concepcion a little lower, but I don't know. Right now, I might be a little too high on Boston, a little too low on Concepcion, and Omar Cooper is another guy who's kind of right in that tier for me.
Yeah. I have Chris Bell mixed in there as well, but I have Denzel Boston at 34, and I've got Casey Concepcion at 44, and then Chris Bell at 45. So I know Omar Cooper at 49.
Who's the name that you want to highlight here, Fitz?
I want to bet on Jalen Noel. I know he didn't do much. I just want to bet on the speed and athleticism. And this guy, like when he was at Iowa State, had pretty much identical stats to Jayden Higgins, even though they're much different types of players. Like, I was just very frustrated by the way Houston rotated its receivers last year, and I'd like to see Jalen Noel get a little bit more of a shot there. And I know I can hear Derek Brown in my earbuds right now, like complaining about Houston's offense.
Well, I was going to say, like, this is pretty bold of you. You're like, I want to move up Jayden Higgins into a higher tier. I think we need to talk about Jalen Noel, like that offensive line, what we saw from Stroud to end the season, just the way they've run the offense recently. They're all talented players. And of course, like you mentioned, Nico's still there, but
both of those guys can pop if like it's a 3-man. Let's winnow this down to a 3-man wide receiver setup with Nico Collins, Jayden Higgins, and Jalen Noel. Fewer snaps, please, for Xavier Hutchinson, and Christian Kirk can leave town.
This is all assuming that Tank Dell is dead.
And Tank Dell's coming. That's true.
Which I think, by the way, I don't think Tank Dell is going to be doing anything. I think
it's hard to imagine him being relevant.
Brooks too. I've kind of written off Jonathan Brooks. Like, there's those guys with those major knee injuries that maybe can come back and give you something. I mean, we kind of wrote off Javonte until he came back with the Achilles. So, it doesn't. It could be 2 years down the road that these guys come back, but I would assume that they're kind of nothing burgers right now. So.
Today's show is brought to you by our presenting sponsor, Hard Rock Bet, Florida's sportsbook. I know it's tough with no football, but like the song says, I bet I will survive. With Hard Rock Bet, there's always something to bet on every night. Hoops, hockey, and so much more, plus all the great same-game parlay, live betting, and player prop options you're used to. And did you know Hard Rock Bet is the official sports betting partner of the Miami Heat and the Orlando Magic, so they know their basketball. If you haven't signed up with Hard Rock Bet yet, there's never been a better time. New signups can double their winnings on their first 10 bets, maximum of $50. That's right. If you would have won $100 on your bet, make that $200. The Hard Rock Bet Sportsbook app is the only legal sportsbook for whenever you're in Florida. It's also live in Arizona, Ohio, New Jersey, Indiana, Tennessee, Virginia, Illinois, Colorado, and Michigan. Coming soon to more states too. Plus, Hard Rock Bet offers new promos daily. So whenever you're listening, just open the app and check out what you've got any day of the week. Download the Hard Rock Bet app and make your first deposit. All right, guys, let's get to the tight end tiers and rankings. Go a little quicker here. Tight ends a little bit less interesting from the Dynasty perspective. Of course, I would recommend everybody check out the Dynasty trade value chart on fantasypros.com. We account for like tight end premium formats in that chart, so that can help if you're in a league where tight end is a little bit more valued in terms of Dynasty value. Tier 1 for us here, Brock Bowers at number 1, Trey McBride at number 2, Colston Loveland at number 3. We don't need to spend any time on Bowers at 1 and Trey McBride at 2. I think we all agree with that. Maybe you want to make the case for McBride ahead of Bowers, but we all are going to be very strong consensus of those guys at the top. My question is, does Loveland belong not at tight end 3, because I agree with that, but does he belong more at the top of tier 2 and leaving these two guys, Bowers and McBride, alone, who have actually done it before at a very high level? Or is he already up there in tier 1, Fitz?
I think he's already up there in tier 1. And from week 7 on through the rest of the season, which when you factor in the Bears playoff games amounts to 14 games, 3 or more catches every one of those games in his rookie year. He felt so dangerous down the backstretch of last season. Like, he was a major problem for defenses. He's such a tough cover. Linebackers can't stay with him. Strong safeties have a hard time staying with him. He can outmuscle cornerbacks. Like, this guy is just a walking mismatch. And in the hands of Ben Johnson, a play caller we really like, who oversaw a fantastic rookie season from Sam Laporta in Detroit, I would not be surprised if a year from now we had Loveland ahead of Trey McBride.
I think for me, Loveland is more like, I'm pretty confident he will be here after this upcoming season, but I just want to kind of have deference to Bowers and McBride have both had elite seasons already. So it's
that's how I have it.
Yeah, like I want to bet on Loveland. I want to trade for him if
Same.
it's possible. Like I'm a huge believer, but there's no, I guess I'll put it like this. There is no scenario in a startup draft where I'm drafting Loveland over Bowers and McBride right now. Maybe that'll prove to be wrong. So while I think he's tight end 3, I feel like he should still be at the top of tier 2. So I disagree with Fitz. Bogman split the difference for us to break the tie here.
No, I agree with you, Worm. I'm Bowers and McBride 1, 2. Then I would put tier 2 as Loveland, Warren, and Kraft. And then I would go down to tier 3. So that's how I would split it up. Let me ask you this, Fitz. If you had to either kick Loveland out of tier 1 or also bring Warren and Kraft into tier 1 with Loveland, which one would you more likely do? Kick Loveland out down to tier 2 or bring the other two back into tier 1?
Kick Loveland out just because McBride, I mean, the numbers were just sick last year, and we saw what Bowers could do, capable of his rookie year, and were it not for the injury. And
we saw just how bad Geno was 2 ways,
right?
Which Bowers was hurt this year, and I think that was most of it. But also Geno was so bad. But the Seahawks went from being a mid-level offensive team to winning the Super Bowl. Sam Darnold, getting rid of Geno. Geno's just not a good quarterback. So I think Fernando Mendoza is going to bring Bowers right back up to where we want him, I think.
I think he will long term. I mean, it's hard for a rookie. I know we've had a couple really great rookie quarterback seasons recently. It's not easy to just step in, and Mendoza is not viewed on the same kind of like generational quarterback prospect level that some of these guys have been in recent years. He's obviously going to be the number one pick this year, and he's good. We like him. I wouldn't be surprised if he is not like lighting the world on fire right away. And is maybe,
it's not just replacing Geno, though. They'll fix a lot of the O-line too.
Yeah,
Colton Miller come back
and a better just an offensive minded head coach, right? A better play caller,
better scheming, a lot of things.
In defense of Loveland. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and the fact that right now, I mean, look at the Raiders wide receiver core too.
Yeah,
ugly. Yeah.
I was going to say, like, in defense of Loveland being in tier 1, he is the guy whose quarterback situation of these 3 we are most certain about. We know what it's going to be for Bowers, but we haven't seen him in the NFL yet. Trey McBride, we're not sure what it's going to look like in Arizona. Loveland, we know is going to be paired with Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson for the foreseeable future, and he's only 21 years old. So I think if you're making the case for him in tier 1, that's part of it.
I think that's another reason to push him and Warren down into tier 2, right? Is because they both have way more competition for targets than Bowers and McBride. Loveland and Warren, and Kraft is coming off the injury, although God, he was good to start the year. He was so good. If he hadn't gotten hurt,
he would be in tier 1 if he hadn't gotten hurt. I mean,
100%.
He was playing like an elite tight end, Tucker Kraft.
So that's just a little separation, but I could easily see, like, if you wanted to eliminate that second tier and put those 5 in a tier as well, I would be okay with it. But like you said, Worm, there's just no world where you're taking any 3 of those guys over Bowers or McBride right now. So
let's bring in tier 2 into the conversation because we've already started doing that. At tight end 4 is Tyler Warren. Then at tight end 5 is Tucker Kraft. Then there's 3 more names: Harold Fannin Jr., Sam Laporta, Kyle Pitts. They're all in tier 2. Kyle Pitts, of course, coming off of a tight end 2 finish at the position just last season. He is sticking in Atlanta. They're tagging him, hoping to extend him. And he now is paired with a guy who throws to tight ends a lot in Kevin Stefanski as an offensive play caller and designer. So Pitts is a really interesting name here. Laporta obviously has had the tight end 1 season. His rookie year, looked like the guy who should be tight end 1, in future seasons in Dynasty. And Harold Fannin, despite a really bad offensive situation that he was in, was really very productive here. So a lot of really fun names here in tier 2, honestly. Like I said, it's Loveland is not in there. It's Warren, Kraft, Fannin, Laporta, Pitts. Fitz, do you agree with Bogman in that this tier should maybe be split up, where Bogman was saying he'd have Loveland, Warren, and Kraft together and then the other 3 guys after that? Or do you think that the whole group of 5 is okay to have together?
I think the whole group is together, and I completely agree with the way tier 1 and tier 2 work out. I think the exact right players are in both of those tiers.
Okay. Are they in the right order for you in tier 2, Fitz?
I go back and forth on how to order Tyler Warren, Tucker Kraft, Harold Fannin, and if you ask me tomorrow, my answer would probably be different than it is today. Like I'm so torn on that. And then kind of the same with Laporta versus Pitts. I'm also sort of torn on those two. So I don't feel strongly about it. I think it's really close with the Fannin, Warren, Kraft trio, and really close with the Pitts, Laporta duo.
Maybe I'm giving too much weight to the quarterback situation, but I think I would have Kraft at the top of that group, excluding if we were to move Loveland down. But of the 5 names that are in tier 2, I'd have Kraft at the top just because the combination of talent and quarterback, like Tyler Warren, I don't know what it's going to look like in Indy. Harold Fannin, I don't know what it's going to look like in Cleveland. I know that once Kraft is back healthy, he's going to be paired with Jordan Love, and he's probably going to look pretty awesome.
It would be an easier answer if Kraft were not coming off a torn ACL.
100%. 100%. Yeah. What are you guys doing with Pitts? He's at the end of this tier. Like I said, he's coming off. He was the second best tight end in fantasy by total scoring this last season. Obviously talented. Sometimes there's a position that takes a few years to get going, and he's now with Kevin Stefanski. We'll see what the quarterback situation is in there. Talking about questionable situations, but Bogman, what are you doing with Pitts right now?
I have him at 7. I have him ahead of Laporta. So great year for him. I am behind Fannin. Again, my tiers are different. Obviously, I have Kraft, Loveland, Warren, and Kraft 3, 4, 5. Then I have Fannin at 6 and Pitts at 7. I have Kenny and Sadiq in this tier with Laporta, and your boy Isaiah Likely. I've moved up into this tier.
Likely is a couple tiers away in the consensus rankings. You guys know how I feel about that.
But landing spot is obviously
we'll see how that moves.
Fitzy, is there a landing spot that puts Isaiah Likely into this group, or would he still have to be in the next group for you?
Man, I haven't thought too hard about landing spot. No, I don't think you could put him in a tier 2 for me.
Okay.
I think the one scenario where he would be tier 2 for me is one that is no longer possible, and that's him sticking in Baltimore and Mark Andrews leaving. Yes. Now that Andrews has been extended, obviously during the season, there's no world. Even if he came back to Baltimore, Andrews would still be there. So that's. He
goes to Carolina. He's the number 2. Target.
We talked about this last time. You guys know that I believe there's a chance he's here a year from now. I would not shock me.
You got killed a little bit on your Isaiah Likely take.
Well, I just want to be really clear that I'm not saying he should be ranked here or that it's definitely going to happen. I'm saying there is a world where he is in tier 2 next year, and I think anybody who thinks that's impossible is crazy. He's really talented and has never had the chance to be like the guy. If he is in an offense where he's one of the top targets, like these elite tight ends are, he absolutely has the talent to be at like a high-end tier 2 tight end in Dynasty. I don't know that he's going to get that opportunity, right? Like I'm not guaranteeing it or betting on it or anything, but there's a world where he's here.
You don't like him more than Pitts, do you?
Like no, not, I mean, I think there's a world where we're sitting here a year from now and saying he should be ranked higher than him. I'm just saying that's on the table. Yeah. I'm not saying it's definitely going to happen. I'm not saying he should be ranked higher than these guys right now. To be clear,
right.
Can I just say a good word about Kyle Pitts real quick?
Yeah.
And this was noted by my buddy John Daigle of Establish the Run the other day on Twitter, that in the Kevin Stefanski's 6 seasons in Cleveland, tight end target share, he was top 5 in 5 of those 6 seasons, top 10 in the other season. So like that is a really interesting data point for Pitts. Very
it's a good data point, but tell me the good wide receiver that played in Cleveland in that time.
That's true. That's true.
And he split it. It was Njoku and what was
it's not exactly like the Falcons are flush with good wide receivers. They've got one, and that's it.
I think Mooney is better than he played this year, but he also got hurt.
I can't even name the third receiver in Atlanta right now, Boggs.
Is it David Sills?
I mean, Pitts, I think, should be getting more usage than Mooney. And Mooney is a good player, but
and we should be praising Fitzy, because Fitzy was the guy still in on Pitts this year when everybody was out. Everybody was sending him the clown memes. Didn't we
call him Pat Pitts-Morris last year? I mean, he's still going down with the ship.
And since I mentioned my buddy John Daigle, I should mention I was going against him in a playoff game where I had Pitts when he scored those 3 touchdowns in the Thursday night game, and he still beat me. I still lost that game.
Oh my
real.
God.
I know. It's hard to lose when you get that kind of same.
Nobody else did anything on your team? It must have been
pretty
that
much.
Way. That's terrible.
Everyone else
All
face planted.
We'll go a little quicker through the next 3 tiers at tight end, just because at this position, I think it's more about picking names that you want to take a swing on that could maybe elevate up to tier 2, as opposed to like there's no real value in having tight end 14 on your dynasty roster,
right,
outside of just a bit of depth. It's more like, who are the swings we want to be taking here? So tier 3 is at tight end 9 through 14. Oronde Gadsden, Dalton Kincaid, Kenyon Sadiq, the incoming rookie, Jake Ferguson, Brenton Strange, and George Kittle. Who stands out amongst this group? Obviously, Gadsden had a really great few games in a row stretch where it looked like he might be like a top 5 tight end in dynasty. All of a sudden, kind of fell back to earth after that. Sadiq is going to be a first-round pick in the NFL draft, like coming in as the tight end 1 in this year's class. Kincaid has never quite put it all together, but is a guy that we have liked in the past. And then some veterans here, Ferguson, Kittle, obviously coming off the injury. So who stands out to you in tier 3, Fitz?
I don't think Jake Ferguson or Brenton Strange or George Kittle should be here. Strange is probably the best case. And I mean, I'm a Wisconsin guy. Like, I can't, especially now that the Cowboys have Lamb and Pickens, unless like the Cowboys do some sort of tag and trade with Pickens, I just don't see how Jake Ferguson justifies this. Now that he's got a couple years under his belt and isn't super young anymore. And I mean, Kittle, as old as he is, coming off an Achilles, like I think it should be a 3-player tier with Gadsden, Kincaid, and Sadiq.
So there's nobody you would move up and replace those guys with? You would just leave it at those 3 names?
I would leave it at those 3. Maybe Likely is the closest.
Okay. Bogman?
Yeah, I mean, I think this tier is fine. I don't think I would move much. I think maybe Kittle can go down, like Fitzy said, because of the major injury and his age, but I think this is probably correct. Like, we just expect a little more from Kincaid. I think I would like Gadsden a little bit more if he wasn't, in an offense with Lad McConkey and a run-first look. But Jake Ferguson has been good. Brent Strange had a great 2025. So I think this is fine. I think there are names I'd probably add to expand this tier more than take guys out of it. But again, this would be tier 4 for me.
Jake isn't even my highest ranked Ferguson at tight end.
If I told you one of Gadsden, Kincaid, and Sadiq was inside the top 6 at the position a year from now, who would you think that I was talking about? Either of you?
Kincaid.
Okay.
Kincaid's problem was he had like a 37% snap share last year. But man, like his target share when he was on the field was good. He was making some big plays when he was on the field. They just have to get him on the field more. And that's kind of the problem with the lighter tight end who's not a really good inline blocker. Like, he's never going to be a 3-down guy. And unfortunately,
it would be Joe Brady making a commitment to having him on the field.
Yeah,
right?
but unfortunately, they like Dawson Knox and Jackson Hawes too.
Yeah.
Tier 4, Eli Stowers, the other rookie here that we're going to talk about. Mason Taylor, Dallas Goedert, Theo Johnson, Terrance Ferguson, Juwan Johnson, Isaiah Likely, Mark Andrews, TJ Hockenson, Hunter Henry, Dalton Schultz. That's 11 names running from tight end 15 through tight end 25. Bogman, we already talked about Likely. Who stands out for you besides him here in tier 4?
I think Mason Taylor, like, again, he had a much better year than I thought with bad quarterback play. So let's see him with a better quarterback. I think that'd be a lot of fun. I think Eli Stowers is a guy that's going to get that Oronde Gadsden like rise going into the draft after the combine. People are going to see him as a much better athlete than we think going in, and he is a pass catching tight end in name and trade. So I think he is going to get a little bit of a boost. I think Terrance Ferguson should move up, like Fitzy said. But I think this tier is probably pretty good. The rest are just these, steady Eddie high floor guys. Like, I don't really know what to do with Hockenson after his injuries, and he's getting a little bit older.
Would you rather Andrews or Hockenson? They're back to back, both veterans, both older.
Not close.
You'd rather
Andrews should get a little bit of a kick with no Likely, right? Like, I know Kohler's still there, but he's not the pass catcher.
Kohler's also a free agent, so he might be back, he might not. So
okay, I mean, I think they signed him back just because he's a good blocker, but that should be the number 2 there, most likely. So, Mark Andrews should be moving up a little bit, even though I understand his age is what keeps him down here, but he's still a very good target. So, yeah, I think this group is probably close to right.
Fitz, if there is a guy that I would want to move up to the next tier, or at the very least at the top of this tier, it's Likely. The second guy on that list would be Terrance Ferguson. So I'm right there with you on liking Ferguson.
Yeah. Yeah. Sean McVay talks glowingly of him. Ferguson is a freak athlete, and the Rams we saw how much they used 2 and even 3 tight ends last year. So I'd like to see it maybe be a little more 2 tight end and Ferguson featured a little bit more. The only issue that they've got Puka Nacua and Davante Adams, but man, like any week where one of those guys was injured, I would want Terrance Ferguson in my lineup, I think, in a dynasty league.
Just quickly on this tier, Eli Stowers, what are you guys doing with him? Like, obviously, Sadiq is tight end 1 in the class, the way we see it. Is tight end 15 overall, like, about right for Stowers? Is tight end 2 in the class?
I'm at 14.
Fitz?
I really like him. The only issue, I worry that he could be Kincaid-like in that because he is lighter, might not be on the field as much as you'd like, whereas Sadiq could be a 3-down tight end. But otherwise, I mean, I think he might even be a better pass catcher and receiver right now than Sadiq. It's just, I think Sadiq's got a little more potential with his athleticism and the potential to play in line.
His outcome will probably be a lot like Harold Fannin, right? A lot like a Rondé Gadsden. If you end up in a good situation as a pass-catching tight end, you could play immediately. But if you end up in, with the Jets, obviously it's tough, even if you are on the field.
Last tier here, tight end 26 through 36, David Njoku, Elijah Arroyo, A.J. Barner, Travis Kelce, Michael Trigg, Chig Okonkwo, Pat Freiermuth, Cade Otton, Evan Ingram, Michael Mayer, and Ben Sinnott. Give me a name or two here that you guys think is undervalued, a target you would have in Dynasty right now if you're trying to get some tight end depth or just take an upside swing. Fitz, who stands out to you?
A.J. Barner should be a tier higher.
Yes.
And Gunnar Helm should be in this tier.
Okay.
Hey, Matt, look, were you just stealing my names? Fitzy,
AJ
AJ Barner,
too?
Gunnar Helm. Well, I also think Pat Freiermuth, let's get a more vertical offense going with Pittsburgh and Mike McCarthy, right? I think he could be used a lot. And I also think there's an egregious mistake of Mount Washington not being in here because they like to use the 2 tight end sets. And Mount Washington got a lot of love from Aaron Rodgers at the end of the year, and he is a huge end zone target. He is Mount Washington. So I think he could be in there on touchdowns alone. But the most egregious one is after what A.J. Barner did down the stretch and his connection with Sam Darnold, he has to be in a higher tier.
Yeah, Barner should be higher. I could see the case for Chig Okonkwo. Cade Otton's a free agent, and maybe where he goes, he gets a better opportunity. Ben Sinnott, maybe just takes a couple years. I know Debro was really high on him coming in to the league. I mean, it's like I said, once you get past the top 12 or so, you're just looking for upside swings, guys like Likely or Ferguson or
I would
Mason
like to see
Taylor.
Michael Mayer get away
Mayer
from
if he got an opportunity
Bowers.
somewhere else.
Yeah, that would be great too.
You want to be taking these upside swings, guys that could turn into tier 2 and 3 type tight ends. And again, like to circle back to the Likely conversation, it's not guaranteeing that they're going to get there. These are the guys who have the upside if things work out to get there. Those are the guys that I want to be betting on pretty much outside of the top 2 tiers at tight end. So that'd be my recommendation there. I think we can go ahead and wrap up there. We went a little longer on this episode, so I appreciate everybody sticking around to the very end. For Bogman and Fitz, I'm Ryan Wormeli. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time.